Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. The installation of 43-year-old Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his half-female cabinet, which also includes 2 disabled persons, a Muslim, and openly gay person, has left social media buzzing about the changes that must come to our country, the Bahamas. Joining me this morning is a woman who believes that she just might be that change. Her name is Chanel Burrows. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning, Star. Thanks for having me. Persons with disabilities.
Persons with disabilities.
Yes.
See, and she's politically correct. I'm loving it already. Now, Chanel, you were no stranger to us here at Bahamas at Sunrise. You were with us about 2 weeks ago, and at that time you were talking to us about slut shaming, about the fact that women should be respected. You talked to us even about international laws that call for the protection against victimization. It was a really good conversation, and I just wanted to find out from you whether or not that incident was the tipping point into you deciding that you wanted to run as an independent candidate.
I think you're referring to the incident related to Candia Dames and the slander that was, said against her. That wasn't, well, it might have been a bit of a catalyst, but it wasn't the particular tipping point that you speak of.
Okay.
The reason that I decided to run was after having appealed to the government through protesting, petitioning, lobbying, agitating, trying to advocate for different laws and protections, particularly for the rights of children, minors, and the more vulnerable populations. I didn't see any substantive or favorable response. I must say that after a lot of agitation, they did bring about one particular a law that we had been working really feverishly to see come about. But the real thing for me was when I saw a post on Facebook in May 2014 that really alarmed me regarding people thinking that violent action was the only way to counteract what they considered to be a corrupt government.
Wow.
And not just this current administration, but the previous as well. I think people who are from a certain social class were feeling very discouraged to the point of saying, our children are starving. We're seeing many young men come out of jail and being killed when they're on bail. We're also seeing children raped, and we don't know what else to do except to go into the House of Assembly and cause a ruckus. So at that point, I decided to start sitting in the House of Assembly every week. Okay. And I also spoke to Andre Rollins about it about a week or so before he started speaking out. So I want to thank him for speaking out on behalf of the Bahamians that feel as though we don't have enough of a voice.
Okay. And so sitting in Parliament for a year, you see this post, you see them talking about the need for some violent overthrow in order to see the change, and you felt the frustrations of the people and determined that this might be the right opportunity for me to put myself in the race. Now, you are right. You have agitated for some time for Marco's Law, and we know that the Marco security alerts have now gone out, and when the children are missing, we can hear about them right away, thanks to the work of you and your colleagues.
And others. The Marco's alert has now been fully enacted by the law. We're now also agitating for the sex offender registry to be considered, and that's a very sensitive issue, so we want to make sure to look at that cautiously, carefully, and not hastily, but to get to the job.
Now, so many people would have seen you protesting, but there are so few Bahamians who want to protest with you. Do you think that in spite of the lack of political participation in protests, Bahamians are ready for the type of change that an independent candidate would agitate for?
Well, hey, I consider me running as an independent in the general election my ultimate act of activism.
Okay.
So, it never mattered with the numbers. I want to thank the Cabinet Office for their consistency with giving us permission, and also the Commissioner of Police. The thing was, we were consistent, and we will continue to be consistent through Rise Bahamas and other entities, Mothers United for Peace and others. And the thing about it is that we stood our ground, and we would stay hours upon end. I got sunburned many times, but the fact of the matter is, we believe that children, minors, more vulnerable populations, and marginalized groups deserve a voice. And if we as a people and a country can get together and lobby behind that, then we can do anything. I really want to see in a year the next International Day of World Peace, the Bahamas really recognized as having made amazing strides, starting with the eradication of child abuse and violence against children.
You've got some lofty ideals, and you sound like the perfect person to make the Minister of Social Services. The challenge is, though, that even if you do win as an independent candidate, it is very likely that one of the major political parties will still return as the leading government, in which case your appointment as a cabinet minister might be unlikely. How do you still intend to make an impact?
Well, I've been in Parliament and learning, what provisions they have and mechanisms to effect change or even to agitate for accountability in governance. The Public Accounts Committee is one of them. Adherence to the Public Disclosure Act is another one to ensure that assets and liabilities of members of Parliament are, not untoward. There are Auditor General reports. There are a number of mechanisms that I think the current opposition haven't fully or successfully utilized to cause for a good opposition. That's the point of opposition. And if an opposition does a good job, then why wouldn't the majority vote them in as the leadership? So I'm going to encourage other people to run as independent candidates as well.
Okay.
And if they have similar ideals, a heart for child protection and the protection of marginalized groups, heart for human rights, environmental protections, justice, and equality, I invite you to come on board and be an independent candidate, and let's do this hand in hand.
All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for being with us this morning, Danielle. I am looking forward to seeing what will emerge for you over the next 2 years as you really try to do something different. I know that your heart is for the people and you believe in your cause, and so we really wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. You can check out my Facebook page, facebook.com/Independent Elizabeth.
Independent Elizabeth on Facebook. You heard it here on Bahamas at Sunrise. Miss Danielle Barros running for Elizabeth.